Have you noticed that lately, the world seems to be heading rapidly towards an abyss? Perhaps you, like millions of people, are feeling that there is something very wrong in the air, something that cannot be explained only by economic crises, political conflicts, or natural tragedies. There is an invisible tension, a kind of rope about to snap, and even though many try to ignore it, this feeling grows stronger every day. What if I told you that all of this was already foreseen, that every piece of this chaotic reality, every conflict, every crisis, every movement of darkness that we see emerging upon the earth was already announced thousands of years ago? The problem is that almost no one is noticing. They are so busy with their own routines, distracted by superficiality, anesthetized by the excess of information, that they cannot see that the prophecies of the last days are being fulfilled right before their eyes. And don't think this is an exaggeration. What is happening in the world right now, and especially in the East, where civilizations were born, where faith was shaped, where God spoke to humanity, is not just a geopolitical coincidence. It is a spiritual cry. It is a divine warning. It is the living revelation that the prophetic clock has not stopped. It is ticking. And every second that passes brings you closer to the final fulfillment of something that many prefer not to believe. But ignoring it does not protect you. Pretending not to see it does not change the fact that the spiritual world is more active, more intense, and more influential than ever. And if you think this is a conspiracy theory or the talk of a religious fanatic, get ready, because what you are going to hear in this video will literally take you out of your comfort zone. You may be wondering, but if all this is true, why isn't anyone talking about it? Why isn't the news reporting it? Why aren't churches shouting about it every day? And I'll answer you directly and brutally, because silence is also part of prophecy. Yes, silence is one of the greatest signs of the end times. The Bible warned that in the end times people would have itching ears, seeking teachers who would only tell them what they want to hear. In other words, the truth would be hidden, stifled, ridiculed. And while the masses run after empty entertainment, speeches that massage their ego, the spiritual world continues to move, preparing the stage for the greatest collapse this generation has ever seen. And here, perhaps you need to make a choice. You can simply close this video, pretend that none of this is happening, and go on with your life as if the clock is not ticking. Or you can be part of a small group, a rare group, that does not accept being deceived, that does not accept living in spiritual ignorance, that chooses to open their eyes, even if it hurts. Because the truth, my friend, hurts. It deconstructs, it shatters illusions, it tears off masks, but it also frees. And if you have come this far, it is not by chance. God is calling you. He brought you to this video because he knows that there is something inside you that is still searching for the truth. And I ask you, are you ready to listen? When we look at what is happening in the East, specifically in regions such as Iran, Israel, and the entire Middle East axis, it is impossible not to realize that these territories are like central pieces on a spiritual chessboard. Since ancient times, this region has been the scene of wars, conflicts, but also of divine revelations. It is there that God spoke to Abraham. It is there that the greatest religions in the world were born. And it is no coincidence that today, it is precisely there that the greatest sources of tension are flaring up. This is not politics. This is not coincidence. This is prophetic fulfillment. The Bible, in Matthew 24, makes it clear. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but do not be afraid, for these things must happen, but the end is not yet. And this is where many are mistaken. They think this refers only to isolated conflicts, to visible wars, when in fact Jesus was talking about something much bigger. He was describing the moral, spiritual, and social collapse of humanity. He was warning about the time when nations would rise up against each other, not only with weapons, but with ideologies, with hatred, with persecution, with the destruction of sacred values. And if you look closely, this is already happening. Notice how families are falling apart, how values are being destroyed, how faith is being treated as a joke, as backward, as something outdated. See how love has cooled. People are more selfish, more violent, more apathetic. And this is no coincidence. This is the exact fulfillment of what Jesus said. Because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. And the question I ask you is, can you see this? Or have you also been numbed by this system? And it doesn't stop there. The prophecy also speaks of earthquakes, famine, plagues, and signs in the heavens. And if you think that this is a thing of the past, just open any news portal. Never in the history of humanity have we had so many extreme weather events, pandemics, increasing hunger, and more recently, cosmic movements that even scientists themselves cannot explain. And do you know what's scariest? People see all this and carry on as if nothing were happening, as if they were just coincidences. But let me tell you a truth that perhaps no one has had the courage to tell you. In the spiritual world, there are no coincidences. And if all this still hasn't convinced you, think about the rise of religious persecution. You may not know, but today being a Christian in countries like Iran means risking your life. Churches are being destroyed. Leaders are being arrested. Families are being torn from their homes simply for refusing to deny their faith. And do you know what's even more frightening? This persecution, which once seemed distant, is slowly reaching the West. Disguised as censorship, cancellation, attacks on freedom of expression, ridicule of faith, and if you think you're safe, think again. What's happening there is just a mirror of what, sooner or later, will come knocking on your door. So I ask you, how long will you ignore the signs? How long will you pretend that all this is normal? God is shouting, not with words, but with events. And if you have spiritual eyes, you understand, you feel, you know that there is something much bigger happening. And if this video is reaching you, it is not by chance. It is God calling you. It is the Holy Spirit shaking you. It's now. It's today. Wake up. Awaken. And if you feel that this message is speaking directly to you, right here in the comments, I choose to wake up. I choose to be prepared. This is not just a comment. It is a public act of faith. It is as if you are making a statement to the spiritual world that you will no longer be manipulated, deceived, or distracted. You are positioning yourself as someone who chooses the light, even in the midst of darkness, and more. Share this video with at least 3 people you love, because if God is awakening you, it's because you also have a mission, to be a voice in the midst of silence, to be light in the midst of darkness. And if you're not part of this channel yet, subscribe now. Here, you'll never hear superficial messages. Here, it's for those who have the courage to face the truth, no matter how hard it may be. Activate the bell, because what I'm going to reveal to you in the next videos can completely change your view of what's happening in the world. And, more importantly, it can save your soul. And I end by telling you, the signs are everywhere. The prophecies are being fulfilled. The spiritual clock is ticking. And the only question that matters now is, are you prepared, or are you going to keep pretending it's not happening? Because, my friend, time is running out. But if you think all this is disturbing enough, take a deep breath. Because there is an even deeper and more frightening layer behind all this, which very few people have the courage to expose. There is a hidden pattern that repeats itself, an invisible script that has been faithfully followed since ancient times. It doesn't matter if you look at the events in Iran, Israel, Russia, China, the United States, or Brazil, everything points in one direction: the total collapse of the world order as we know it. This is not theory. This is prophecy. And here comes one of the greatest hidden truths of humanity. What is happening in the physical world is just a reflection of what has already been decreed in the spiritual world. Yes, the visible world is just a distorted mirror of an invisible battle, where spiritual forces are clashing in a war much older than any history book dares to tell. And if you think this doesn't involve you, you are completely mistaken. Because in this war, the battlefield is your mind. It is your soul. Notice how at the same time that physical signs multiply, earthquakes, pandemics, wars, famine, climate chaos, something even darker and more silent also grows: the apostasy. Yes, the abandonment of faith, spiritual coldness. People who were once fervent today live numb, distant from God, immersed in distractions, vanity, materialism, and false doctrines. This was also prophesied. In 2 Thessalonians 2, it is written that before the manifestation of the end, there will be a great apostasy, and the man of lawlessness will be revealed. You see, this is not the distant future. This is happening now. And if you think it's just a coincidence that right now there are global movements working to establish a new order, redefine concepts of right and wrong, erase Christian values, normalize chaos, and replace God with ideologies, you need to understand something. Chaos is not a bug in the system. Chaos is the system. And the more confusion, the further people move away from the truth. The more spiritually vulnerable they become. The more they become easy prey to forces that work tirelessly to lead this generation away from God. And here's a question that maybe no one has ever asked you. Have you noticed how everything is being prepared for the acceptance of a single government, a single currency, global leadership? This is not just economics. This is not just geopolitics. This is spiritual. The Bible already spoke about this in Revelation. The emergence of a system where no one will be able to buy or sell without a mark, where people will be forced to submit to a central authority. And do you really think this is a coincidence? If you've been following the news, you've probably noticed how governments and international organizations are using crises, whether health, economic, or climate-related, as justification to advance global control agendas. And the scariest thing is that people are willingly accepting this, because they've been conditioned over the years to give up their freedom in exchange for a false sense of security. This was also prophesied. And here, if you're with me this far, I need you to understand something that can change your spiritual life forever. The greatest goal of these forces is not just to dominate nations. The real target is your soul. They want you to be distracted. They want you to live numb, chasing money, status, and fleeting pleasures while your spirit silently dies. And the worst part is that millions of people are falling into this trap every day, and maybe even you, without realizing it, have already been seduced by this system. So I beg you, do not ignore this message. Don't think that this video is just another sensationalist content on the internet. This is a spiritual alert. It's God using even a platform like YouTube to wake you up, shake you up, and pull you out of that spiritual slumber. Because if you think you have time, I ask you, do you know how much time you have left? And right now, as you listen to this message, the world continues its course toward the fulfillment of the latest prophecies. Wars continue to be planned. The persecution of Christians continues to intensify in several countries. Economic collapse is ever closer. The Earth's climate system is collapsing. And at the same time, an entire generation continues to play at life, ignoring the fact that they are treading on the thread of eternity about to snap. If this message makes sense to you, if you feel that something inside your spirit is being shaken, don't keep it to yourself. Write it here in the comments. I choose to wake up. I choose to be prepared. Declare this to the spiritual world. Take a stand. Show that you will no longer accept living in spiritual ignorance, distraction, and illusion. And share this video now. Send it to at least 3 people. Because if God is waking you up, it's because He wants to use you as an instrument to wake others up too. And if you're not part of this channel yet, subscribe now. Here you won't hear shallow messages or empty speeches. This is for those who really want to wake up. Activate the bell, because what I'm going to reveal to you in the next videos could literally be the difference between you living awake or being swallowed up by the system. And to finish, I leave you with one last thought, which may echo in your mind for the next few days. Everything that is happening now has already been written. Every movement, every crisis, every collapse. But there is a decision that only you can make. Ignore the signs, or prepare. Live numb, or live awake. Surrender to the system, or align with God. Because time is running out, and those who don't realize it will be swallowed up.